Spice Island in the Pot is brought to you by Stumpy's Emporium and the Penny Savers Supermarket.
Welcome to another great episode of Spice Island in the Pot. This is the place where happy is sauteed with life and there just isn't anything better. I am Arlene, your food designer, and together we are going to make some mischief in the kitchen that your friends and family are just going to love you for. I'm talking about stews, sauces, baked goods, roasted stuff, big meals, tiny tasters, all this using our very own homegrown ingredients. And for sure, I'm gonna gourmet things up with a few specialty ingredients and easy methods. So today is a light meal kind of day. We're gonna take 2 pieces of bread, put something on it. Simple enough? Maybe not so simple. When last you eat some good old bread and corned beef? And we're not just making any kind of bread and corned beef. We're actually making the bread from scratch. Pumpkin bread. We're gonna use that same bread in a different shape to do our gourmet twist. Roast beef with apple coleslaw. Sounds kind of heavy, but it's gonna be nice, light, fresh, and fun. A really good lunch. So let me get my ingredients together and we're gonna start baking and cooking. So we're all set up to get our pumpkin bread on the way. So I have some pumpkin. Now this pumpkin is fresh, but if you had some pumpkin from before that you didn't have a chance to use, you can put it in the freezer and it will be just as good to use for your bread. It's a good way to kind of extend the life on some of your ingredients. I have a little cinnamon powder. I think that gives pumpkin a really nice flavor along with some nutmeg. We have 6 cups of flour, already in my bowl. I have about 2 tablespoons each of butter and shortening. When I was younger, my grandmother sent me to the shop. She used to say, go and buy a cooking. Cooking is actually the brand. The ingredient is actually shortening, vegetable shortening. I have some baking powder, some yeast, a little salt, a little brown sugar, and some warm water to help the yeast to build up and make the bread nice, light, and fluffy. So let's begin. So I'm gonna make the pumpkin puree for the dough. So I have here about 2 cups of pumpkin diced up, thereabout. And I have my warm water. Now it's important not to have steaming hot water, warm to the touch. So this kind of activates the yeast and it helps the bread to rise really nicely. So these 2 cups of pumpkin puree, I'm going to do about 1.5 cups of this warm water. And hold on. There we go. And I'm just going to pulse this up, get it to one nice even texture. Okay, that seems good. So I don't want to put too much water here because you can always add water to this if your dough needs it. Good. So this is Mr. Silver. He is my boyfriend. It is a KitchenAid mixer. It's a little costly and pricey, but totally worth it because a lot of people know how to bake. How to cook for sure. But baking comes a little tricky and it's always good to have something to help you out. He comes with 3 attachments. This is the dough hook used for bread and things like that. This is the whisk. We used to use a fork before to mix eggs to make them light and fluffy. So we have the whisk for that instead. And this is the paddle, and this makes sure the butter and the sugar gets all creamed instead of the pot spoon in the big silver pan we used to have to mix for hours over Christmas time. So we're making bread today. So the dough hook. So this one is a pretty fancy KitchenAid. However, I do a lot more than you do, so I require something a little more. So I'm gonna get some air into my flour. So I'm gonna just put this to still for a little. And I'm gonna add all my dry ingredients to this. So, about 3 tablespoons of baking powder to my 6 cups of flour. 1 packet of yeast. Just about 1/4 cup of brown sugar. If you want to put less sugar, you can. If you're watching your sugar intake. And then a teaspoon of salt. Perfect. Of course, my cinnamon powder. Put about 2 teaspoons of this, just to give that pumpkin a really nice flavor. So I've already blended this, so what I want to do is add about half a nutmeg to my pumpkin puree. Now, give this a little blend. Perfect. There we go. So I'm gonna just speed this up a little and add my butter and shortening. And this is at room temperature, so if you're planning to bake, you want to put this out, you know, before the night before you can, so that it's nice and soft, and when you start mixing your dough, it gets incorporated evenly. Alright, so we're mixing here. Get everything down. I'm going to get the flour from this side here. We used to go through like a sifting process long ago, where you have the big strainer and you sift, but doing this here allows the air through your flour, and then we get things now like pre-sifted flour and all that kind of stuff, so that kind of helps, you know, the convenience of the process. So once everything looks like it's evenly blended, you start adding your puree slowly, because you don't want to add too much. There we go. And the nutmeg is in there. Smells really good already. Yep, that's good. There we go. Can you imagine when we had to mix this by hand? Well, I had to at some point. So I was very happy when I got my first gift of a KitchenAid. Alright, so it's happening. I'm going to add slowly some more warm water. This is just so you get the consistency, and what you're looking for is a soft, light dough. Not too sticky and wet, not too dry, because then the bread comes out dry. You want to have a nice, even and moist. And as you go along, as it comes together, you have to kind of speed up the mixer. Now in KitchenAid rules, once the dough kind of comes together on the hook, that means it's been mixed and it's almost ready. So going again with a little more. There we go, raise that up. And once you have a nice color pumpkin, like a bright yellow, it comes through in your bread. Oop. There we go. Right, so this looks good, and then I have to get my hand in there a little, because you know, you want to get the love. Let me just get this out. Perfect. So my dough is a little sticky, but you know, there's some flour at the bottom of the bowl, and I have to get my hands in there. This is part of the love process. So I know some people are really excited by the idea of a woman with a hand in flour. Men, they tend to like that. They like the idea of it. I've been told when they come into the restaurant and there's flour on my aprons, they get very excited. I've had many wedding proposals that I've had to turn down. I'm just going to add a little bit of this flour here to bring it all together. And you see, my dough is not stiff. It's actually quite soft. So when this is left alone to rise, it's going to be a nice light dough. Perfect for making sandwiches. There we go. So we're gonna bring it all together. And it's important to be in a really good mood when you bake. Don't come home in the rush of things and just hustle the flour, and you're mean and you're upset. You have to be, you know, take a shower, have a glass of wine, mix, you know, dance around if you must. But it's important for you, especially when you're baking, you know, your spirit must be in the right place. So this is a nice sticky dough. Like I said, not too much dried flour. I'm going to grease my bowl now with a little vegetable oil. So just on the go around here. This just helps keep everything nice and moist. There we go. Good. So this is going to be in here for about 30 minutes till it doubles in size. So see, it's here now in the bowl is this amount. It's going to fill up really nicely. We're going to put it in the pan, let that sit for about 15 minutes, pop it in the oven, get the whole place smelling like fresh bread. That's like one of my favorite smells. You should make a candle called fresh bread. That will be good. So we're going to let this sit. Then I'm going to start on my corned beef and cabbage stew. Let's get started. So we're on to good old corned beef. I have all the ingredients ready. So I have 1 tin of corned beef. Any brand that you like is good. They're all available at Penny Savers for sure. I have pimento or flavor peppers, minced garlic, a little ketchup to make it nice and saucy. I have some tomatoes, onions, a nice lime to get some of the freshness out, and of course cabbage to give that little texture to this. So I'm gonna start getting all of this together before we cook it. So pimentos, just about two big ones. This is a nice colored one, like this. So 1 color, 1 green. These are nice and big. Seeds, everything is okay. Nice chop. There we go. So that's this here. Perfect. 1 onion, like a medium size is fine, regular onion. And get this peeled. Oh. There we go. Corned beef was actually around since the 1600s, and the way they used to preserve that meat is put large rock salt, like kernels of rock salt, into like a crock pot and just kind of cover it down and keep it. So hence the expression corn. Also, if your hands slip while they're cooking something, I put too much salt, people kind of say, oh, this food isn't corn, boy. So that's that. And that has happened to me a few times. So don't feel too guilty or too bad when you make something and it's a little salty. There we go. Nice even dice for everything so it cooks up evenly. So we have some onions. I'm going to use 3 small tomatoes. And because we're doing sandwiches with this corned beef, I don't want too much sauce and gravy to kind of make the bread too soggy. So I'm going to make a nice, thick, meaty, really good corned beef for this. There we go. There we go. There. 1 more. Perfect. All right. So we have all the starting ingredients here ready. This is what is going to go into the pot first with the garlic. No salt, because remember this is salt already. Just going to get a little freshness out. Just about half of a lime. Just pour the juice right over it like this. Perfect. So these are nicely done. You don't have to buy the whole cabbage. So Penny Savers kind of cut them in half and you get to pick a size of your choice. So this is going to give our corned beef some nice little texture. I'm adding this towards the end of the meal because I don't want it to cook and be too soft. I want when I bite into my sandwich, I have the nice texture of the bread, the smoothness of the corned beef, and a little crunch from the cabbage. So I'm not going to use all of this. Just about, say, a quarter. This would be like a quarter of a cabbage. Get the outside skin off. And I'm going to do nice thin slices. And it's always important to consider what your end product is going to be used for, so you know how big to cut certain things. If you make this into big slices or too small, it gets lost. If it's too big, it may fall out of the sandwich in a funny kind of way. So I'm cutting these like short slices like this. There we go. Perfect. This is also a nice way to kind of stretch your dollar on the corned beef, to kind of bulk it up with all the other good stuff. Get more out of it. I think this should be fine. Okay, so I'm ready to get everything into my pot, get that corned beef cooking. We're gonna check on the bread that's raising nicely out there. So, let's see if I can balance everything and head over to the stove. Join me. Okay, so we have everything set up here. I have my non-stick pan, of course, getting this to a nice medium to high fire. Vegetable oil, just about a little less than a quarter of a cup, couple tablespoons, nice and hot. I'm gonna do a little garlic. There we go. And everything else. Perfect. So we're gonna cook this up in this oil for a little bit till everything gets nice and soft. The good thing about corned beef is that it has its own flavor, so you don't have to flavor too much. Of course, I like to put a little garlic in everything, a little flavor peppers. It makes, you know, good Caribbean food just good. Right. So we're gonna let this get a little soft. There. Wait for a little bit. Now, a very important ingredient for corned beef is ketchup. Very important. Don't even attempt to make corned beef without ketchup because it's unheard of. All right, so this is coming on nice, soft. And remember, this corned beef, the purpose of this corned beef is for sandwiches. So you don't want it to be too saucy or too runny. You want a nice, sturdy consistency. So I'm gonna add my corned beef here. There we go. Break this down. Remember, there's a little lime in this, just a little bit, just to take down some of that freshness. You know, us here in the Caribbean, we like to wash meat and lime everything, and you know, it's a little different for us and our taste. Right. So this is gonna flavor up all the vegetables here and come down nice and soft. Then we're gonna add the ketchup. The president of this meal would be the ketchup. Then we're gonna put, at the last minute, I'm gonna add my cabbage so that it steams just enough to cook, but not to get too soft, because I definitely want that crunch in my sandwich. There we go. This is as simple as it gets. You can make this in 15 minutes or less. You know, long ago when housewife was a more prominent job in the family, if you got caught watching Young and Restless, which used to show strangely, I think close to lunchtime, if you get caught doing that and your husband comes home and you're not ready with the lunch, you run into the kitchen, you cook up some corned beef, and it was good to go with some rice, for sure. And he felt like you slaved in the kitchen all day. Right, so this is nice and soft right here. So now I'm just gonna lower this a little. Alright. Add my ketchup. So not too much. Just enough moisture so it's a nice moist sandwich, but you know. There we go. This is smelling good already. Reminds me of when I was younger. The smell of corned beef. It stayed in the house for a while as well. There we go. So this is nice. See? There's no sauce. It's just nice and moist, so when it goes on to your bread for the sandwiches, it's not going to make the bread too soggy. So this is nice and together. Now for my final texture, some cabbage. There we go. And just carefully mix that in. This is going to be so good on that pumpkin bread, which we're going to check on in a little while. Perfect. So just want to mix this in. Keep it on a nice low fire. There we go. This is also going to plate up really nicely. It's a nice snack as well. Evening snack if you don't want to get into the whole cooking of dinner. This is good. Okay, so the heat is going to remain here really low for just about 3 or 4 minutes. The cabbage is going to steam and get into all the corned beef flavors. It's really nice and colorful here. So my bread has been rising for about 30 minutes. I need to get them into the pans and into the oven. So heading back to do that now. So my pumpkin bread has risen beautifully. So I'm gonna get it out. I'm just gonna put a little bit of dry flour on the counter and just turn it over. Perfect. So see how nice, light it is. It's not dry. There's some moisture. The little oil that we put in the bowl kept it nice and moist. So I'm going to do 3 different shapes for you today. We're going to do a basic loaf, we're going to do a plaid loaf, and then we're going to do some square buns for our gourmet twist. So we're doing it all together. So I'm just going to spray these, which is non-stick pans, and this is like a 8.5-inch pan, so this is always a good standard size. I know we're generally used to the big pans like this, and you're cutting and the slice is this big. No need for that. These, they don't have any real pans, but I got these in any food packaging distribution type store. They have all these different little things, and they're oven friendly and cheap and convenient. So I'm just folding in the lip of this one, and this is going to give me a nice square bun, give my meal some character. So I'm just going to fold this in so it doesn't cut me like so. We're going to spray these as well and make some nice square buns for our roast beef sandwiches. So spray and spray. Perfect. So we're going to divide this up. I'm using a dough cutter. A sharp knife would do as well. So this is 2, and then this is 4 like this. So this would give me my 2 loaves, and this would give me a little smaller for my square bun. So we can actually get 3 loaves from this. So let's make a little ball. Nice and smooth, and it's important not to fold your flour in and knead it in really tight, because then it doesn't raise, because it has to raise again in these pans before we get it into the oven. So I'm just smoothing these out. So I'm just making, and you're going to see some little chunks of pumpkin in here. That is fine too. So I don't want to fold it in like I said, so I'm just kind of making my little square right here on the counter. And you see, my counter is not covered in dried flour. This is not a recipe for that. So I made like a little square that I think would fit nicely in here, and I'm putting it in. So easy. Perfect. See? So that's one. Another little square for this one. And like I said, you have to be in a good mood to make this bread. You can't be upset and you're pressing down the flour because your boss gets you upset at work and you can't take it anymore. Not like that. Nice, light, happy. Otherwise, you'll end up with some very heavy bread. Right? And we just kind of press it in. Nice and light like this. This is one. Gonna do regular loaf. So for your regular loaf, we already have a circle. So you can either roll this and make the roll, but to me, if you just take your hands, fold, pinch the back so it doesn't split open like this, and already we are getting a nice little shape. And you nice roll like this, nice and gentle, like this. See, cover up all the little openings. Yeah, that's this one. So put this in here. And just kind of press it to the corner so it takes a nice shape. And it's nice to have a bread that's shaped like this, because when you cut for sandwiches, it looks really nice. The sandwiches come out nice and evenly. So I put this aside, and this is going to rise up really nicely here. So I'm going to do the plaid. So I'm just going to divide this into 3 equal parts, and we're going to make kind of roll and pull it down like this. This is just a fun thing to do if you were just having like just a plain bread with some jam or so. This is like a nice pattern you can do. So I have one piece of my braid, another one, and as I roll, I'm kind of just like pulling it out. So I'm stretching the dough out, kind of pulling it like this, go. 2. It doesn't have to be perfect because braids are not perfect anyway. So that is this. I know we used to put like this little tiny braid on top of a loaf like this. I just thought this would be kind of cute. So here we go. We have our 3 pieces like this. Some bigger than some, but we'll work that out. And you want to just attach at the beginning and kind of press them together. Kind of fold and go under like so. Then you start to braid. Ooh, I've had short hair for a while. I hope I remember how to do this. All right, so there we go. Almost perfect. Right, and then we just tuck this one in. And that's my braid. I'm gonna get it into the pan. So when it rises up, it's gonna have a nice little pattern there for you. There we go. So I'll fill this into another pan. We're gonna let this sit again for 15 to 20 minutes till it kind of puffs up, you know, almost halfway to the pan. Get them in the oven. Preheat your oven at 350 degrees. I'm gonna set this aside. Then we're gonna put it in the oven, get the place smelling really good of that nice pumpkin bread. My pumpkin bread is in its pans and it's risen. See? Twice the size. This is the braid that we did. This one is the regular loaf. So they've all come up nice and level to the pan, and then of course our 2 square buns. So we're gonna get these into a preheated oven. It's preheated to 350 degrees. When that gets to temperature, you put them in there for 30 minutes. And then it's out and it's fresh bread from here. Okay. Middle, lower shelf for the big ones, because they're gonna take a little longer. And then on top, we're gonna put the small ones. Of course, the small ones are gonna take a shorter time. That's about 15 minutes. And we're gonna wait for this. It's gonna come out nice, fresh, soft, good homemade bread. My pumpkin bread is out of the oven. I put it on the side like this to cool, so it gets, you know, a little more air. So it's nice and warm enough that I can touch it. See it? Nice, soft to the touch, perfect. So I'm going to get the ends off, because this is the end that you eat with a little butter. So we get that out of the way, keep that to one side. The knife that I'm using is actually made for bread. It is a bread knife. If you try a different type of knife with the smooth edge, it's going to hack up the bread. So try and make sure you use a bread knife. So I'm going to do 2 slices for my corned beef sandwich. See? So good. Look at that. Perfect. You get the cinnamon just blowing its whisper all through the bread. It's gonna be really, really good. So I have my 2 slices ready. There we go. And my corned beef. Smells so good. So I just want to get it out of, see that? See how the cabbage has just kind of steamed in, kind of like perfect. And even the cabbage, when heated, it releases a little liquid as well. So that's why you don't add, for this particular recipe, you don't want to put any additional liquid. You just want to keep with what is already there. Nice and juicy. This is going to be a really good sandwich, I can tell. Here we go. So I have my corned beef, I have my bread, now I have my plate. I don't know how much I can say when I taste this sandwich, because I'm probably just going to forget about you and continue eating. So there we go. Nice. That crunch from the cabbage, a little sweet from the ketchup, a little salt from the corned beef. Good already. So there's my sandwich. Top of my sandwich. Here we go. This is my corned beef sandwich on pumpkin bread. We made the bread from scratch. There's a little nutmeg. There's a little cinnamon running through there. Nice, soft, warm loaf of bread. The corned beef, cooked not too wet, not too dry. Nice cabbage in there to give it its texture. I know my face is messy, but that's the only way I know how to eat a sandwich, is to really get my face involved. Coming up next, we have our gourmet twist of roast beef. Same pumpkin bread, different shape. We're serving that up with an apple coleslaw. Really good stuff. I'll see you when I get back.